Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Jayashri for inviting me to give this session today. I hope you all are having a good day. Greetings from Dehradun. My name is Dana Hardy, and I am a lactation consultant and childbirth educator working in Dehradun, up in North India, in Uttarakhand. I basically am from the US, but I've lived in India for over 7 years now. So today I wanted to talk to us all about what self-care looks like when times are changing. We all know that this is much different circumstances in each of our lives. And so today we're just going to discuss what is self-care and how can we adjust in these changing times. Like I said, I am basically from US, but I've been working in India for over 7 years. I see families from the ANC through the PNC period, from pregnancy through childbirth and beyond that. And so I look forward to sharing with you all today just a little bit about how to take care of ourselves and how to be proactive in caring for ourselves during this time. As we all know, this has been a much different time in India, in the world. And so COVID-19, the coronavirus, has forced us to change our lives. What our lives looked like 2 months ago is much different than what it looks like today. So I just want to acknowledge that and acknowledge that each of you have a much different daily life than you thought you would at this time. So what has changed in India? We know we are all on lockdown until May 3rd. So only going out for essentials in the hospital. In my city, we can only go out in a two-wheeler, so I only drive a car. So my husband is going to the market and getting our essentials. Wearing a mask. When we're out in public now, we have to wear a mask. And so many of us are also having kids now who are having to do school from home, sometimes online, sometimes correspondence. So this is an adjusting stress for all of us. And then also how do we do work from home when offices are closed, hospitals are only open for certain work right now. So this is just a difficult season in many ways for each of us. So I want you just now to close your eyes. Take a pause as I ask you this question. What do you do? When I ask that question, what does it make you think about? Think about your day, your week, your month. What are your roles and duties? Who do you spend time with? Where do you spend your time? What takes your energy? Where does your stress come from? Think about your life in terms of all different sectors. We are whole people who have different parts of us, whether that's emotional, whether that's physical, whether that's spiritual, whether that's mental. So I want you just to pause and think about that for a few moments. I really like this picture, this graphic. When I see this woman who is breastfeeding, this is the work I do supporting women and families and their babies during the period of breastfeeding. And I just look at all of these different voices. Some come from inside of us, and some come from outside of us. Some come from people we love, and some come from people that we do not want to be around. And so just think about the voices, both your own voice and the other voices that bring joy and peace, or voices that bring stress and exhaustion. So this graphic says she persisted. So even with all these voices, even in this changing time of corona, we can't just stop life. We can't just hide. And so how do we thrive in this time together? So as I look at this definition, when we think about stress, look at all of these words. There are too many words. Stress is a threat, it's a danger, it's discomfort, it's real or imagined, it's mental or physical. And so we can read textbooks about what is stress, how to prevent stress, how to avoid stress, but I want us just to think through stress in a different way. So what does it look like for you? What does your stress look like? Are you someone working in the hospital right now who has to wear a gown and a mask and all of these different pieces and worried about catching a virus that you could then transfer to your communities? Are you breastfeeding your baby? Are you pregnant right now? Do you have young children at home or school-age children? Are you caring for an auntie in your life, whether that's a mother-in-law or your own mother? Who's living with you? Are you having to help your kids with studies? In between cooking every meal, in between keeping your house clean, in between all of those things. And so right now, stress looks different than it did a few months ago, like I said. And we all have stress. We're tired. We wake up after even sleeping longer than we used to. And we still feel so tired. And so today I want to talk about how to care for ourselves better during this time. So this is a graphic that I find very helpful. We all have a window of tolerance. A tolerance window is when we are balanced, when our stress levels are manageable, when we can see our emotions and we can engage mentally and not feel overwhelmed. And many of us go to different ways during stressful times. One way is called hyperaroused. We can't calm down. We are anxious. We react to people around us in ways that we don't want to. Our thoughts are racing, going so fast. Or we can shut down. And so that's called hypoarousal. And then we can feel depressed, feel lethargic, feel numb. And so I want us to think about throughout our day, when are we balanced? When are we going to hyperarousal? When are we going to hypoarousal? And we have to just observe ourselves and observe our reactions. What is making us stressed? What is it making us angry? What is making us feel joy? What is making us feel gratitude? And so I want you to think about that as you go about the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Just pause and evaluate. Am I balanced? Or am I choosing to react and go into hyperarousal, or am I choosing to shut down and I just feel like I can't do this anymore? So the goal for all of us as humans is to be resilient. Adrienne Marie Brown says, resilience is perhaps our most beautiful, miraculous trait. This is thinking about living not in survival, not in just reaction, but living and thriving and responding well and really engaging with our children, engaging with our family, engaging with our community. And so resilience allows us to come through stress. We can't take away stress and just ignore coronavirus, ignore lockdown. We can't just close our door and say this isn't happening. And so we want to build in ourselves resilience so we can come through times that are changing, that are complicated, and we can thrive. So let's pause and let's think about how you are doing today, right now in this moment, in this week. As you think about this, think about your stress, think about how are you doing with exercise, your diet, are you sick right now? How are your family dynamics? How are your marriages? How is your relationships with your coworkers? How are you managing work when you can't go into the office, you can't see clients, your husband's not going into the office? It's a very complicated time. So what is self-care? Self-care is a time throughout the day when we think about ourselves. Not in a selfish way, not in a way that ignores our responsibilities, but we pause to take time, like this little flower growing. If we are the flower, there's different things we need in order to survive. We need dirt or soil, we need sunlight, we need water. And so self-care isn't something selfish that just makes us want to go shopping and spend lots of money, buy fancy foods, do things that spoil us in a way. It's more survival so that we can care for ourselves And then what does that allow us to do? It allows us to care for our families and our coworkers and our community. So if you think about self-care, you have to think about it in, like I was saying earlier, a holistic way. We are people who have physical needs, mental needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs. So think of yourself as a whole self. And so just know that self-care is customized to you. As we look at this graphic, this is someone's interpretation of self-care. But your little clouds in the graphic might look much different. It might look, maybe you're someone who is working on the front lines in the hospital. And so your self-care may look much different because you're not just staying at home. And so think about that for yourself. Maybe make a list of 10 things that make your energy increase, make you feel refreshed, make you able to take a deep breath, and make you, by the end of the day, you're not yelling at your children and wanting to just hide in your room or wanting to argue and have a fight that day. What makes you more interactive with your environment so you can be the person you want to be with your kids, with your family, and with your community. Here's another example of some different types of self-care. There's physical, like I said, emotional, social, and spiritual. So I like how this person broke it up into those categories. And so after our talk today, I want you to return and write those categories on a paper. And I want you to make a list of some things that you can think of doing in your day, in your week, in order to care for yourself in all of those different categories. Physically, does that mean walking? Emotionally, does that mean forgiving someone who you are angry with? Socially, does that mean turning off your phone and not being on so much social media because it's making you too stressed, worrying about corona and all of that? Spiritually, is it doing yoga when you wake up in the morning? Is that something that replenishes your soul? So what we need to do is make a plan. If we don't have a plan, if we don't have ideas of how we're going to do this, then we won't do it. We'll just let our day go because we are all very busy people. But this is a way for us to think about taking care of ourselves so we can care for others and our community. And it's very important to have a person who can check in with you each week. How are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you resting? How have you been doing with your morning yoga? So even after this talk, please think of someone who can be that person for you. So just some questions as we end our time, how to think through this. So why is self-care important? Especially during these changing times, especially during coronavirus. Self-care is always important, even when our lives are peaceful, the sun is shining, and everything is going well. But it's even more important when we are very stressed, when we don't know the future, when we don't know what our next month will look like. So after this session, think of 3 goals. Like I said, you should draw your own picture with those categories. And under each category, write a few things that you can do to care for yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And then we don't only want to learn for ourselves. So we want to think of how we can share this with someone else in our community. Do you have a neighbor you can message? Do you have a friend you can call? Can you talk about this with your mother-in-law? And then finally, who can keep you accountable so that you stay healthy during this time? So I want to thank you. As I think about this, I think about each of us like a diya. So our hands are open to receive, and we are the diya. We are the light, and we don't want our light to go out. And so if we are living under too much stress and we are not resting well, we are not thinking about how our soul is doing, then our light will go out. And then we can't help ourselves, we can't help others, and we can't help our community. And so I just want to close with a mantra that I find very helpful. So let's just pause right here, and I'm going to read a mantra. May you be filled with faith. May you be a source of hope. And may you be aligned with love. Thank you for listening. I hope you had a good time in this session, and I hope you will think about how to care for yourself so that you can also care for others and care for your community. Be safe during this time, and I hope it passes for all of us soon, and we are healthy, and our families are healthy, and our communities stay healthy. Thank you. I also wanted to make an offer to each of you. I know that this is a time where we're thinking about how we want to serve, care for our communities. And so a part of my work is an online offering, an online course for lactation. So if you're someone who wants to support breastfeeding families, mothers, and babies in your community, and you want to learn more about that during this time, I am offering a 25% discount. And so you can find the website at beginningseducationindia.com and just send me a mail, and then we can work on that together. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great week. I also wanted to make an offer to each of you. I know that this is a time where we're thinking about how we want to serve, care for our communities. And so a part of my work is an online offering, an online course for lactation. So if you're someone who wants to support breastfeeding families, mothers, and babies in your community, and you want to learn more about that during this time, I am offering a 25% discount. And so you can find the website at beginningseducationindia.com and just send me a mail, and then we can work on that together. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great week.